I used to think love was unbreakable. You grow up believing in promises, and those words said before God and family forever, always, until death do us part. And when a man looks you in the eyes with a ring in his hand, swears he'll never leave, never betray, you want to believe him. I did. I believed every lie he wrapped in the shape of love. And for years, I built my whole world on that belief. But belief can be poison. It seeps into you slow, filling every corner, until one day you realize the sweetness in your veins has turned to venom. You realize the person lying beside you in bed is not your shelter, but your storm. And every scar you carry inside and out you earned because you trusted the wrong man. I'm not here to beg sympathy. I'm not even here to justify myself. I'm here because truth has teeth. And if I don't tell it, it will chew me alive in silence. So, before I tell you what I did before I open up the dark and let you see the woman I became, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from tonight? Tell me in the comments. I want to know who's out there listening, who's leaning in to hear the confession of a woman scorned. He was my husband. For 20 years, he was the center of everything. My mornings, my meals, my dreams, my disappointments. When people saw us together, they said we looked steady. The kind of couple that makes it. What they didn't see were the small cuts that bled me dry. Little by little, it didn't start with bruises. It didn't start with betrayal. It started with neglect. That quiet, sharp kind of cruelty where someone looks past you like you're not even there. At first, I excused it. He was tired. He was stressed. He carried the weight of the world. And I thought my job was to carry him. And I did. God, I carried him on my back. I worked shifts, paid bills, cooked meals, raised children, all while telling myself that his silence wasn't punishment. But silence has a sound. It's the sound of doors closing, of hearts hardening. His silence grew louder with every passing year, until one night I caught the echo. It came in the form of perfume I didn't wear, a laugh on his phone I didn't recognize, a lipstick stain in the crease of his shirt. That's when silence became betrayal. Don't you know what it feels like to realize you were a fool for half your life? To look at the man you swore your soul to and see a stranger who lies with another woman in the hours you spend waiting up for him. It cracks something in you, not just your heart, your bones, your foundation. I remember the first night I confronted him. He didn't deny it. He didn't even bother. He smirked like I was a child who'd just learned that Santa Claus wasn't real. Don't make this harder than it is, he said. Harder than it is. As if he was the one enduring something painful. As if I hadn't been bleeding invisible wounds for years. That night, something in me shifted. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just watched him. And I realized he wasn't afraid of me. That was his mistake. He thought I was weak, too broken to stand up, too dependent to walk away. He thought I'd keep playing the dutiful wife while he played house with someone else. But let me tell you something about women like me. We carry hurt like firewood, stacking it up year after year, letting it dry out, waiting for the right spark. He lit that match himself. I started planning, not loudly, not recklessly, quietly, methodically. The way he underestimated me was the same way I began to build my revenge. He thought I didn't notice his routines, his passwords, the way he left his phone face down on the counter. He thought I didn't pay attention to the money missing from our accounts, the late-night withdrawals, the hotel charges under fake names. He forgot that I was the one balancing the checkbook. I was the one who knew every creak in this house, every shadow in his life. And as I gathered these little truths, receipts, text messages, photos, I didn't just collect evidence. I collected strength for the first time in years. I felt a clarity that was almost holy. Every lie he told me became a nail in his coffin. Still, I waited. Revenge isn't something you rush. You don't strike when you're angry. Anger clouds judgment. You strike when the world is quiet, when he least expects it. When the air is so calm that the violence of your choice will echo louder than a scream. I can't tell you yet what I did. Not now. Because to understand the act, you need to understand the woman behind it, and I wasn't born a killer. I was made into one, piece by piece, by the man I trusted most. People say the line between love and hate is thin. They're wrong. It isn't thin, it's invisible. You don't see when you've crossed it, not until you're on the other side, holding the pieces of your own heart like shards of glass, realizing you're bleeding, but you don't care anymore. I crossed that line the day I looked in his eyes and felt nothing. No love, no grief, no fear, just a cold, clean rage. That was the day I stopped being his wife and started becoming his reckoning. And the truth is, he never saw me coming in. I learned to wear my silence the way he wore his lies. On the outside, nothing changed. I still cooked his meals, washed his shirts, even smiled at the neighbors when we walked down the street together. I was still Mrs. Miller, the woman, who stood by her man. But inside I was writing his obituary. He thought he had the upper hand because he controlled the narrative. He strutted around like I was too small, too soft, too scared to fight back. But men like him don't realize that women notice everything. Every look, every lie, every slip of the tongue, it all adds up. And I noticed, God, I noticed. I began studying him the way a hunter studies prey. His habits, his timing, the places he thought were secret. I watched his face when he lied, how his left eyebrow twitched ever so slightly. I memorized the sound of his footsteps when he came home at 2 a.m. The scent of cheap perfume he tried to mask with cologne. I even started writing things down in a little notebook I kept hidden in the sewing basket, the one he'd never dare touch. There's a power in keeping records. He thought his sins disappeared the moment he erased a text or threw away a receipt. But nothing disappears when you've got someone like me watching. I collected everything. I could have gone to court with the evidence I had, could have ruined him legally. But I didn't want the law. The law is cold and slow, and men like him always find cracks to slip through. I wanted something different. I wanted him to feel my pain in his bones. People ask why women stay. Why not just leave? Pack a bag, walk out, start fresh. I'll tell you why. Because walking away lets them win. It lets them rewrite the story. She couldn't handle me. She was weak. She gave up. And I wasn't about to give him that satisfaction. No, I stayed. I smiled. I played the part of the loyal wife until he couldn't tell the difference between devotion and deception. Do you know what it feels like to live a double life? To pour his whiskey at night, hand him the glass with a steady hand, all while imagining slipping poison into it. To press a kiss to his cheek and imagine the blood draining from his face. Every smile I gave him was a rehearsal for the day I'd stop pretending. The turning point came one Friday night. He came home later than usual. I was waiting in the living room, lights low, TV humming in the background. He walked in, smelling like smoke and perfume, and dropped his jacket on the chair. There was a scratch down his neck. Lipstick red nails had left their mark. He didn't even try to hide it. And for the first time, I laughed, not out loud. Not the kind of laugh anyone could hear, but inside, I laughed because he had no idea that I was already 10 steps ahead of him. He thought he was untouchable, but I was the one holding all the cards. That night, I went upstairs and took a long look at myself in the mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes were sharper, colder. Her mouth was set in a line of steel. And for the first time, I wasn't ashamed of her. I was proud. She was strong. She was me. I started small. Testing my power, I changed his passwords just to see if he noticed. He didn't. I redirected money from our joint account into one he didn't know about. He never asked. I read through his emails, watched the way he begged other women for attention, for validation. Pathetic. Every secret I uncovered made me stronger. Every lie confirmed that he deserved what was coming. One night, I followed him, slipped into my car after he left, kept my headlights off, and trailed him across town. He parked outside a shabby little motel, the kind with peeling paint and buzzing neon lights. I sat there in the dark, watching him disappear into room 12 with a woman half my age. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard I thought I might break it. I could have stormed in, could have dragged him out by the collar, exposed him in front of her. But no, that would have been too easy, too fast. Revenge isn't about rage. It's about patience. And I had patience in spades. Over the next few weeks, I built my plan piece by piece. I mapped his routine when he left, when he came back, how much he drank, which nights he stayed out. I collected enough dirt to bury him alive. And then I thought about the ending. What would hurt him most? Public humiliation, prison, or something more permanent? Every option flickered through my mind like a slideshow of possibilities. I imagined the look on his face if the other women found out about each other. I pictured him sitting in a police station, caught for fraud or theft after I handed over the evidence. I even pictured his funeral, me standing by his casket, crocodile tears on my cheeks while the neighbors whispered about how tragic it all was. But no matter which ending I imagined, one thing was always the same. I would be the one holding the pen. I would be the one writing his final chapter. Some nights I'd sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring at the dark window, and whisper to myself, he has no idea. None. It gave me a thrill, like a secret fire burning in my chest. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of him. I wasn't waiting for the next insult, the next betrayal. He was the one living on borrowed time. He just didn't know it yet. I know some of you watching this are thinking, why not forgive? Why not let go? And maybe if you've never lived it, the lies, the bruises on your soul, the years wasted on a man who treats you like nothing. Maybe forgiveness sounds noble. But let me tell you, forgiveness doesn't keep you warm at night. Forgiveness doesn't erase the smell of another woman's perfume on your husband's shirt. Forgiveness doesn't stop the ache in your bones when you realize your whole life has been a lie. No. Some things can't be forgiven. Some debts can only be paid in blood or ruin, or both. And I intended to collect. I sharpened myself every day like a blade against stone. I was no longer a wife, no longer a victim. I was something else entirely. And the man who once thought I was his possession was about to learn the cost of underestimating me. Because when I struck, it wouldn't just break him. It would erase him. And oh, I was getting close. The night I chose was ordinary. That's what makes it unforgettable. Ordinary nights don't raise suspicion. They don't scream of betrayal or violence. They just pass, unnoticed. Until suddenly they don't. It was a Wednesday. He came home, late, as usual, smelling of whiskey and smoke. I had dinner waiting, meatloaf, his favorite, and a glass of bourbon already poured. He didn't notice my hands weren't trembling. He didn't notice the way I watched him from the corner of my eye as he sat down and started eating, chewing with his mouth open the way he always did, like a man too sure of himself to care about manners. I had rehearsed this moment in my head 100 times. I'd imagined the sound of his voice breaking, the look in his eyes when the world shifted under his feet. But when it came, I felt nothing. Not fear, not excitement. Just calm. I know, I said quietly. He looked up, confused. No, what that you've been sleeping with her, and whoever else will have you. For a second, his fork hovered mid-air. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. You don't know a damn thing. That was his mistake, because I did know. I knew everything. I slid a manila folder across the table. Receipts, photos, text messages printed out in black and white. Proof. So undeniable even he couldn't weasel out of it. He flipped through the pages, his smirk fading into something tighter, meaner. Where the hell did you get this? He snapped. From living with you for 20 years, I said. My voice didn't shake. Not once. He threw the folder down and leaned back in his chair, trying to reclaim his arrogance. So what? You gonna divorce me? Take half the house. Go ahead. You think anyone's gonna believe you over me? I'll bury you. That's when I leaned forward, smiled. You already tried. You just didn't dig deep enough. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Just a flash, but it was there. He realized in that moment that I wasn't bluffing, that I wasn't weak, that the woman sitting across from him wasn't the same woman who had once begged him to come home at night. And that's when the trap closed. He didn't know I had already drained our accounts, funneled the money into a place he couldn't touch. He didn't know I had copies of all the evidence stored with a lawyer, set to be released if anything happened to me. He didn't know that I had called his boss earlier that day, sending over the first batch of photos and receipts, enough to end his career before sunrise. But the real blow wasn't the money. It wasn't even the career. It was her. I picked up my phone and pressed play. His mistress's voice filled the room, moaning his name, whispering promises. He went pale. I'd recorded everything, and she had no idea. You son of a, he started, but I cut him off. Sit down. And to my surprise, he did. I stood then, slow and deliberate, walked around the table until I was right beside him. I bent down, close enough to smell the whiskey on his breath, and whispered, this is what betrayal feels like. Every second you wonder what's coming next. Every second you wonder how much I know, how much I'll reveal, how far I'll go. That's your life now. He tried to laugh again, but his voice cracked. You can't do this to me. I straightened up, looked down at him with 20 years of rage burning in my chest, and said, I already have. The fight went out of him then. He slumped back in the chair, eyes darting, searching for a way out. But there wasn't one. I'd built this cage too carefully. Every escape route he might have had, I'd sealed shut. He was mine, and he knew it. But here's the thing about revenge. Once you've got them on their knees, you realize you have a choice. Do you destroy them completely, or do you let them live in the ruins of their own making? I thought about that long and hard as I stood over him. I thought about every night I cried alone in our bed. Every lie, every slap of silence, every broken promise. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one he crushed beneath his heel. And I realized something. Death would be too kind, so I didn't kill him. Not in the way you think. Instead, I gutted him where it hurt most. His pride. By the next morning, his boss had fired him. His reputation in town was in tatters. The mistresses he'd lied to found out about each other, turned on him, cut him off. The money he thought was his had vanished into thin air, leaving him scrambling with nothing but debts. And me. I was still there, still smiling, still pouring his bourbon, watching him unravel. Every day after that, he grew smaller, angrier. He lashed out, broke things, screamed at walls, but none of it touched me, because I'd already won. His power was gone, his mask ripped off, his kingdom reduced to dust. One night, he collapsed on the couch, clutching his chest. Years of drinking, smoking, rage, it all caught up with him. I stood in the doorway, watching him gasp for air. He looked up at me, eyes wide, begging. And do you know what I did? I poured myself a drink, sat down across from him, and I waited. Because sometimes the cruelest revenge isn't in striking the final blow. It's in letting them realize you're the one who holds their life in your hands, and choosing not to save them. That was the night he learned the truth. I wasn't his wife anymore. I was his executioner, and he'd written the sentence himself. After that night, the house was never the same. He didn't die. Not right then. He clung to life like a roach that refuses to be crushed. But he wasn't a man anymore. He was a shadow, a ghost wandering the ruins of his own making. And I was there watching him every day, watching him shrink under the weight of the truth that I had beaten him at his own game. He tried to rebuild, tried to swagger his way back into the world, but the world wasn't buying it anymore. His boss had washed his hands of him, the money was gone, and the mistresses scattered like rats, leaving a sinking ship. He used to walk into a room and own it. Now he walked in and people whispered. He used to be the man everyone envied. Now he was the man everyone pitied. And he hated pity more than anything. But me. I was free. For the first time in 20 years, I felt air in my lungs. I slept without waking up to the sound of his car pulling into the driveway. I looked in the mirror and saw someone stronger, someone sharper. Not the broken wife, not the desperate fool. A woman who took back what was hers. Her dignity, her power, her name. I won't lie and say it was easy. Revenge leaves marks, too. There were nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, asking myself if I'd gone too far, if I'd lost myself. In the fire I set, but then I'd remember his laugh. That cruel, careless laugh when I first confronted him, and the doubt would burn away. Because I didn't destroy an innocent man. I destroyed a monster who wore the mask of a husband. And you want to know the cruelest twist of it all? He stayed, he didn't leave. He could have walked out that door, found another town, another woman, another chance to start over. But he didn't. He stayed right here, rotting in the very house where he once thought he ruled. Maybe he was too proud. Maybe he thought he could still break me. Or maybe he knew deep down that he deserved to suffer. And I was the only one who could make sure he did. Some nights I'd sit across from him at the table, just like old times. I'd pour his drink, slide his plate in front of him, and watch him eat in silence. Except now, he was the one shrinking under the weight of it. He couldn't meet my eyes, he couldn't smirk, he couldn't pretend anymore. He lived with the constant reminder that I'd stripped him bare, that the woman he underestimated, dismissed, and betrayed was the one who held the blade to his throat and chose not to cut. And that choice, I think, is what haunted him most. Because death is final, death is mercy, but living in the ruins, living with your shame exposed, your pride shattered, your every move watched by the woman who beat you. That's a punishment no grave could hold. I won't pretend I came out of this spotless revenge changes you. It hardens the edges of your soul. There are times I catch myself smiling at things I shouldn't. The sight of him fumbling with bills he can't pay. The way he stares at the bottom of his glass like it might still hold salvation. Sometimes I wonder if I've become cruel. If I've become the very thing I hated, but then I remember the years he stole from me. The nights I cried myself to sleep while he was in someone else's bed. The mornings I painted a smile on my face so the neighbors wouldn't see the cracks. And I'd tell myself, no, this isn't cruelty, this is balance. This is justice the law never gave me. Do I regret it? No, not a single moment. If anything, I regret waiting so long. You know, people always talk about closure like it's a neat little package, tied up with a bow. But closure doesn't come wrapped. It comes jagged, sharp, cutting you as you hold it. My closure wasn't peace. My closure was power. And if you're sitting there, listening to this, wondering if I'd do it again. The answer is yes. 1,000 times yes. Because here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, sometimes revenge is the only language a man like that understands. Sometimes the only way to end a storm is to become the lightning yourself. So now, I sit here telling you my story. Not because I want forgiveness, not because I need pity, but because I want someone out there, some woman staring at her own reflection, feeling small, feeling trapped, to know she isn't powerless. That silence can become strength. That hurt can become fire. That even the weakest woman in his eyes can rise and take everything back. And maybe, just maybe, I want him to hear this too. To know that no matter how many years pass, he'll never escape what I did. That I'll always be the voice in his head, the shadow at his back. The reminder that he wasn't untouchable. They say justice is blind, but I say justice just looks the other way. Until someone like me forces her to open her eyes. So tell me, where are you watching from? I want to know. Because maybe one day it'll be your story told here, your voice finally breaking free. Maybe one day you'll be the one looking into a camera and saying the words I'm saying now. I was his wife, now I am his reckoning. And that, my friends, is the end of us.